Hi guys, Rena here with Remax Advantage. So today we're going to talk a little bit about an escalation clause. Some people are familiar with them, some aren't. So basically with the current state of the real estate market, many buyers are finding themselves in competitive offer situations, and this is due to the lack of inventory we're experiencing right now. So an escalation clause is a tool that can potentially strengthen your offer as a buyer. It's a real estate contract that can be included as an extension to the offer to purchase. And I'm going to show you how an escalation clause works and what you really want to consider when you're including it in your offer. An escalation clause is also giving you leverage if there is another offer on the table that is slightly higher than your initial offer. The escalation clause is your upfront way of saying, I'm willing to pay more if there is competition. So let's say buyer A offers $350,000 with an escalation clause that they will pay $1,000 more than any offer that comes in and above that amount, but not to exceed $360,000. So that would be their top offer. Now, buyer B comes in with an offer of $355,000 with no escalation clause. If the seller were to accept the escalation clause, which they have the right to decide if they want to or not, from buyer A, then buyer A's offer would now be increased from $350,000 to $356,000. And how did we get there if their offer is $355,000? Remember, they're increasing their offer $1,000. So if they were to increase it to $355,000, their offer wouldn't be higher, so they're going to go $1,000 up. They're going to get $356,000, and they're going to save $4,000 because they were actually willing to go $360,000. Buyer A included their escalation clause, so the sellers knew they were willing to increase their offer to make a stronger offer if it came in after theirs. What are your thoughts so far? Does the escalation clause sound like a great idea? Well, let me tell you what you might want to consider before you use an escalation clause in a competitive offer scenario. First of all, the sellers have the right to accept the escalation clause, or would you say choose the other offer? It depends. Some sellers would appreciate that B was willing to come in with their best and highest offer from the start, knowing that it was a competitive scenario, rather than working with the buyer who came in a little bit on the lower end with the offer and only wanted to go higher if needed. The buyer A scenario to a seller may look like, let's see what we can get out of the situation, which could be off-putting to some sellers. So if the sellers are solely focused on the sale price and want the absolute highest price possible, then an escalation clause might be a great tool to use. I personally think it's something to take into consideration on a case-by-case, house-by-house basis, depending on specific information, such as the length of the time the home was on the market, how many offers we're competing with, how motivated are my buyers, and how badly do they want the house. Also, what are the sellers motivated by? Let's recap what to consider when it comes to using an escalation clause. Always keep it in your back pocket as a tool to use when facing a competitive offer scenario. Next, you're going to want to determine whether or not you're going to use it based on that particular situation. Figure out what your highest and best offer truly is and consider offering that price instead of including an escalation clause. Let's recap what to consider when it comes to using an escalation clause. Always keep it in your back pocket as a tool to use when facing a competitive offer scenario. Next, you're going to want to determine whether or not you're going to use it based on that particular situation. Figure out what your highest and best offer truly is and consider offering that price instead of including an escalation clause. Do you have any questions? I'd be happy to answer them for you. So drop them below, and if you're watching the replay, I'll be sure to check back so I can respond. I want to let you know about my new buyer checklist also. I packaged up all the tips I share with my buyers to help their offer stand out in a competitive market. And then I took that and I turned it into a PDF checklist that I'm sharing with you for free. And this is basically steps we go over before we start house hunting so that they're prepared with options when a competitive offer scenario arises, which right now is most of the time. So if you want a copy, you can send me a DM, or I'll drop my email address below for you, or you can leave it below and I'll get back to you ASAP.